Good afternoon. It's 1:05. We'll call this meeting of the IID Board of Directors to order. The date is July 23rd, 2013. And would you please all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please face the flag. And ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Kelly and Mr. Simmons, do we have any actions that were taken and closed to be reported out?
President Desert, in closed session, the board took action to approve a written engagement agreement with the law firm of Lewis, Brisbois, Bisgard and Smith, LLP. The board's action was taken by a 4-to-1 vote. The written agreement is confidential to Imperial Irrigation District pursuant to 6149 of the California Business and Professions Code. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Board, would you please step down in front of the dais and join myself and the general manager? We have some presentations to make. This afternoon we're making presentations recognizing 10 employees for completion of an apprenticeship program, as well as service awards to 8 employees for a total of 140 worker years.
Good afternoon. We're here to recognize several employees who've recently completed the requirements of their apprenticeship programs in various trades here at the district. I'll read the first one and then we'll start walking through them. Having satisfactorily completed training in accordance with apprenticeship standards, Oscar Ione, control operator, is awarded this certificate attesting to the achievement of the skills and knowledge required of a journeyman. And the all-important journeyman card is attached to the back of these certificates. Next, we have Raul Morales, SCADA telecommunications technician. Sean Smale, power lineman.
Sean, do you have any family you want to take a picture?
Moms are saying.
Yeah, I'll get those back. Want to take a picture, Mom?
Come on.
Well, yes, down is the other one. I'll take a picture.
Joseph Pumphrey, power lineman.
Get it outside. And your dad's is in the post office, so.
Brad, you don't want to go take it?
He doesn't have wide enough limbs.
Francisco Alcala Jr., power lineman.
Francisco, you have family here, dude? Take a picture now.
Mike Aguirre, power lineman.
Family here.
Alan Graham, SCADA telecommunications technician. Stephen Martinez, SCADA telecommunications technician. And we have two journeymen who were unable to attend today. Carlos Navarro, power lineman, and Javier Avendano, relay technician. Thank you.
Okay, so now for the service awards. They all read the same with the exception of the years of service and their name, of course. This first one is to Jennifer Michelle Vasquez, and the certificate reads, Service Award, the Certificate of Recognition and Service Pin replica of the district emblem are presented to, and this one is for Jennifer Michelle Vasquez for 10 years of loyal and faithful service to the Imperial Irrigation District. For 10 years of service, Michael Espinosa Sanjero in the Water Department. For 10 years of service, Franklin Bailey Jr., Water Division Coordinator in the Water Department.
Family or pictures? No.
For 15 years of service, Osvaldo Cruz Sanjero in the Water Department. For 25 years of service, Ronald Davis, hydrographer, canal operator in the Water Department. Is there anyone else here to receive a service award and I didn't call your name? That ends our service awards. Thank you.
So you're going to move that agenda item, Steve?
Okay, let's go.
You're going to move agenda item 13 in front? 14 in front of 13. Okay. Consent item 3?
Is he wanting that on number 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, just take them separate, 1 and 2, and then we'll do 3.
Okay. I'll handle them separate. We'll group 1 and 2 together. Okay, Board, this takes us to the approval of the agenda portion of our meeting. You've all had a time to review the agenda. Do you have any comments or changes you'd like to make?
I do, President Desert. I'd like to move number 14 in front of 13.
Okay, that's under information, item 14, being moved to item 13. So 13 and 14 will swap in their positions. Item 14 being a Water Conservation Advisory Board meeting of July 11th, update by Al Kalin, being moved in front of item 13, the 2013 On-Farm Efficiency Conservation Pilot Program specifically.
President Desert, I'd ask that on the consent agenda that we do 1 and 2 together and 3 separate.
Okay, we'll also be addressing items 1 and 2 together on the consent agenda, and item 3 separately by itself as a standalone item for consent. Any other changes or amendments? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended today, moving item 14 under information before item 13 under information, and handling the consent items 1 and 2 simultaneously in item 3 as a standalone item?
I'll make the motion.
Motion from Director Benson. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. President.
And a second from Director Galindo. Call for the vote. Okay, the agenda is approved as amended by the board members. This takes us to the public comment section of the day's meeting. We are now open for public comment. Mr. Ramos.
Good afternoon, Matt, board, members of the audience. Judge Connolly was going to rule on the QSA, the final decision this past week, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to rule this Friday. And the writing's on the wall, he's going to validate the QSA. And all I'm asking, Norma, you asked me a few months ago, or a couple of months ago, when I wrote a letter to the editor, and it came out on a Sunday, that I come here and make questions and ask questions and make statements. And what do I suggest? I say, back up the QSA and back up the judge and validate the QSA, because this is what the people want. Ironically, when the QSA passed back in 2003, I was against it because nobody wanted to have anybody come in and take away our water. But now we're too deeply involved. We got too much at stake. And for the benefit of the ratepayers, the QSA has to be validated and go on. And I really think that part of this whole thing is because they want the farmers to get those $15 or $20 million back if they do invalidate it. But it's going to be validated, and they're not going to get a penny. They shouldn't get a penny because that's taxpayers' money. Either if it's paid through insurance that is done through the IID that they pay it, or whether it's paid. Figure this, people. The county has spent close to $6 million in trying to defeat the QSA. $6 million of our money, and they've gotten nowhere. And I've got a copy of that. Month per month. 1 month they charged the county $90,000. I mean, I only make maybe close to that in a year. 80,000 I make, maybe, give or take a little bit. And I'm happy with that. And these guys, I always call them ambulance chasers, because that's what they are. Not so much because people are getting hurt, but the term applies to they make money at the expense of the public. And that's not right. And Mr. Simmons, I forgot to ask you if I could take another minute of this after the 3 minutes. I hope, Mr. Desert, a minute or two. With patience and understanding, we can get ways, and I'm glad that I can do that. I'm not going to come in and ask for that all the time. I just need that right now. But anyway, we can be still friends. I shook Mr. Benson's hands. I've talked to Norma Advance. Nothing against you, Matt, but I feel the way I do when I protest. Nothing against Mr. Hanks. Me and Bruce kind of go back ways back to the 1970s, 80s, when we were going to IVC in San Diego State. Wow. And we've had our run-ins, but we still respect each other. And that's what I'm saying, people. Don't hate me for what I say. Don't resent me, because that's freedom. It's freedom of speech in America that we live in. But I don't want money to be spent more than what it's used to defend the ratepayers, but not to give it away to the lawyers that are involved in this. $6 million that the county has spent is way too much since 2003 to the present. Mm-hmm. And all I'm asking, they say, Mr. Desert, and I got my Bible here, I'm not going to read from it, but they say in Proverbs 22, it says, "He who takes away from the poor to enhance his lifestyle or give to the rich will end up in poverty." And believe me, I'm not trying to put any of you on the spot. You guys got more to answer that than I do, because you guys are representing the public. When I'm up there in heaven, if I go up there and they're asking me what I do, at least I can say I did my part in defending and helping people. You people have to do the same, because believe me, I'm 65. I don't have that much longer to live. If I live another 30, 95, I'm not going to be here at this podium. Hopefully I am. I don't know. Maybe my sons or their sons will be here. But what I'm trying to say, you have to make the best of life, and you have to help people. You have to do what's best for people. And even hiring this promotion group, it costs $250,000 for one, $60,000, $310,000 to promote what? The QSA. There's nothing to promote. And all I'm asking is that give the people a chance, defend them, and let's back up Judge Connolly when he rules on it this coming Friday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Any further comments from the public? Not seeing any, we'll turn this over to the board for the board members' comments. And I believe I'll start off today, being first, and I'd like to request that the other board members, if they hear something that's of interest that I'm sharing about, if they could perhaps comment in those same regards, particularly here on the water side of our efforts on water accounting and water efficiencies and working with our stakeholders. In regards to the efforts that the IID is making with the communications firms and the QSA outcome in Judge Connolly's court, it really is unfortunate that it's misinterpreted by some that appear to be doing something for financial gain for a specific segment of our community, because that's the furthest from the truth. And the truth is that we're trying to rebuild our neighborhood and our community and the ability of the IID agency to govern itself and embrace the stakeholders and manage our future in a better way, in a more cohesive way where we can all get along and survive. Ideally, for another 100 years, as the IID has most recently experienced the 100th year anniversary. So these are complicated issues on the power and water side, and it's easy to misunderstand or misinterpret directions or activities that we're moving along with, especially, unfortunately, when sometimes those items are politicized, as they often can be, and most likely will be, especially as we move forward into the next election cycles. And speaking of the election cycle, that's the ones that I'll be involved with if I so elect to run for the IID board. Not really sure at this time. We need to see how far we move forward with the agency, or what other individuals may be interested in filling the role on the board. But I'd like to make a reminder to the ag stakeholders in the room, specifically CoLab and the Vegetable Growers Association, the Farm Bureau, the farmers that are in the room, and the representatives from our Water Conservation Advisory Board, our Water Conservation Committee, and anyone else involved in agriculture. There is a real opportunity with this board to move this agency forward and put together some policy and structure and a framework that makes sense. You may not have that availability to have such receptive ears or trained minds and minds that have researched the issues as you do right now. So I encourage you to embrace this board and move forward. I get called and get a lot of comments about different items, and sometimes those calls are fairly critical, as they should be when you get elected to an office like this. Sometimes they're over the top, which will happen too, and we have to learn how to handle those calls, and usually those are from specific individuals that we all know. But most importantly is what have we done on our time here on the board as we're elected? And that's, people ask me, are you enjoying it? Or what's the highlights? What's the downside? And it has a little bit of all those. It has high points, it has low points. Do you enjoy it? Sure, at times. And at other times, it's quite difficult and work. But my current feeling is a feeling of regret that we have not been able to accomplish more. So, and specifically here, I'm talking on the water side. This board has made significant changes in the strategy and the structure and the leadership on the water side of the IID. The legal direction. We're trying to understand these complicated issues that this board is currently in charge of or inherited. And we're trying to do a better job with our water accounting and the representation of the agency along the river as a region, at a federal level and at the state level. And I think we're accomplishing that. But it's up to the stakeholders to get together and get consensus. And I have regrets that sometimes the structure of our committees in our associations, such as Farm Bureau and CoLab and Veg Growers, has been splintered at times. And those splinter groups that don't seem to want to work with the agency to accomplish anything, any type of forward movement, gain the traction that they do amongst those more solid structured minds that sit and participate in those committees. And with saying that, I've got to recognize the leadership of the Water Conservation Committee and the Water WCAB and the Water Conservation Committee. Those leaders that we have there are the forefront to the rest of the industry about getting the message out about what's going on at the IID. And it would be a shame if we burn those guys out, or we waste this time, this valuable time that we have with them, because they're tremendous leaders. And it'd be an equal shame if we lose the momentum and the time that we have right now with this board to embrace and move things forward. We've got to remember where we've come from. And we've made tremendous changes, but I do have regrets that we haven't gone as far as I think we should have or could have. So my challenge is to you, water stakeholders. Let's get it together. Let's make some type of forward momentum. That doesn't mean we turn a deaf eye, blind eye, or a deaf ear to the issues. We're hearing you out, but we've got to make progress. And we can't stop legal efforts. We can't stop mediation efforts. We can't be warned that you can't even use the word mediation in public because of what's going on in mediation. We all have communication here. We all have friends, neighbors, competitors involved in this industry. And the information that flows back and forth is wide open at this time. Whereas before, I think in the past, that information wasn't forthcoming or it was held back. So really, this is an opportunity, and I would hope that the Farm Bureau representative in the room, as well as the Collab and Veg Grower representative in the room, and any farmers and stakeholders that are in the room, can convey this message to the other farmers in the area or ag water users. That's all I have for today. I'll turn it over to Director Benson.
I only have a few quick comments, but I realize today is the final day of water apportionment, or maybe the 20th was a cutoff for the first round of farm groups that were willing to turn water in and then also willing to receive extra water. I applaud people that did turn it in. I think we're going to get a status later on of how many did finally turn in their water apportionment. But it's important that we go through this process of working through the bugs of the water apportionment and also documenting the water use on specific fields for specific types of crops. I think it's important that we are good stewards of our water and we identify where we can conserve going forward. One of the items on the agenda today is the on-farm water conservation program. It's one of the first steps in getting that conserved water saved so that it can meet the obligations of the QSA. I was not on the board when the QSA was signed. Understanding Judge Connolly's decisions coming forward, we're working forward to work within the confines of the QSA as it stands today. And I think it's important that on the river, we know our place, but then also in California and in the region, we are one of many water consumers in the Western United States. And we can't forget that we are part of the Western United States, and everybody has their own unique needs. There's always going to be pressures from the outside, pressures from the inside, and part of this board's job is to strategically align the IID's vision going forward for the Imperial Valley to succeed. None of us want the Imperial Valley to fail. If the QSA is a contract for the death of the Imperial Valley, then we will fight the QSA. If it succeeds, then we will support the QSA. I think it's important to understand that we all live here, we all reside here, we have family here. Myself, 3 generations of farming, we're not going to give that up. And it's important for everyone else to jump on board and work for a common purpose for the betterment of the Imperial Valley. Secondly, I think it's important also on the power side that we understand our unique location similar to water in that we are a conduit for California. We have the West Coast and then everything to the east. We are a pass-through essentially for the rest of the state. And part of this Salton Sea initiative that is being kicked off is to look at how we can not only create a better region for Southern California, but then solve one of the issues with the Salton Sea and what's created by the QSA. If any of you read today's newspaper, the San Diego Union. There was a story in there about a 1,000 megawatt project proposed by San Diego Gas and Electric. Essentially, San Onofre is being taken offline, or is offline, and they're proposing it on the Marine base. We don't know if that's going to go forward, but that is good and bad, because we could also provide an alternative to that power and deliver it to the West Coast. So we have to, as a board, work forward not only on the water but on the power side, and then on the organization as well. I think it's a great organization. Everyone knows it's been here for 100 years. It's important that we make sure it's going to be here for another 100. So I appreciate all the input I get. I get quite a bit. My voicemail is full. But if you have anything that you need to address to one of us or all of us, this is a good place to do it. Also, email, text, cell phone, however you can get a hold of us. Look forward to your comments. Thanks.
Director Galindo.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for making time to come out and let us know what you think, what you feel. I would like to just preface this meeting by saying that it is with sadness that I think we have all found out that the body of the child who accidentally fell into the canal in Calexico last month may have been found. It still has not been verified, but the information that we have points to the possibility that it is that of that child. And whereas that's one of the most difficult things, particularly in my case, because I'm a school teacher, and this child was in the school district where I teach, but also because we all have children. I have a son, and even though he's 30, I still see him as if he were 12 half the time, and he doesn't really appreciate that, but well, I think that this every day we need to be reminded that we have a wonderful community, and a community that comes together, and because of that, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we have to do everything we can to take care of our children, and to make sure that all of the safety measures that we can possibly install anywhere with regards to roads and busy streets and crowded areas and canals. We all should take responsibility for this. This was not the responsibility of one entity or one individual. And with that, I look forward to the implementation of an expansion of the program of the Dippy Duck program, and also a program that would be more in tune with what adolescents are doing and thinking about in order to prevent any other disasters. Thank you.
Director Kuhn.
I believe I read where that had been confirmed. Am I wrong? The body that was found?
I believe it's pending DNA analysis.
Okay. I thought I read somewhere where it had been confirmed. Anyway, it is tragic. I know when we got involved, it was because the family had made a request through a spokesman and didn't think there was enough, and then we engaged, and we were able to get others to engage quite actively. And so I still think that was a good thing. But then you get a letter / whatever and probe that we did too much. So anyway, I don't think if you were that young man's family that we were doing too much, and just try to keep it in that perspective. It's been touched on that we have splintered water interests in this valley, and one only need to sit up here to fully appreciate how tough that can be. And so we do up here what we feel is in the best interest of the entire IID, and I don't want anybody to think that I own ground anywhere outside this valley, because everything I own but for a stock portfolio is in this valley. I have no desire, I have no wish to harm the things that I worked hard to get paid for. And I know of many, many people who invested their entire lives to get what they've got. And I don't want to see them hurt either. And to even allude to the fact that we would do something foolish or dangerous to people's financial well-being is furthest thing from this board's mind, and I've talked to all of them. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with a lot of this, but just remain cognizant of the fact we have to make some damn tough decisions up here. They're not always popular. They're not always unanimous. But when we do them in the best interest of the people we serve and the area we live. Thank you.
Director Hanks.
This Friday, we anticipate a ruling from Judge Connolly, a final ruling, something that's been in the works for 10 years. As Mr. Rommel said, it's been a drain on a lot of resources, both from the public agency standpoint and also from individuals. I'd like to encourage the general manager maybe at the next meeting to bring back from the CFO report on the iBank and what the situation is there, so that it can continue helping out in our plans on moving forward. The old adage that I used to hear a lot when I came on the board was keep the water flowing and the lights on. It sounds pretty simple. A lot of work goes in it. When you flip that light switch on or you turn that faucet on, there's been a lot of work, a tremendous amount of work by employees to get to that stage. But when you sit on this board, you find out there's so much more. All the regulatory issues that we're being faced with. You know, we hear about the stress on the river and the crisis of drought and so forth. Built like a tsunami coming at us after right during the middle of the QSA. This district has to really be on its toes to protect our water. There's talk about a new partnership, a new era of partnership on the river. That's code word for let's renegotiate the compact of 1922. And rest assured, this board does not intend to go there. We have some of the strongest water rights. If they want to go back and renegotiate it based on the same principles, we'll end up with the same results as far as IID. Some of the other folks may not end up there. But it is something that, while we're concerned on helping those up and down the river, they have to get out of a mindset of looking at our water from the standpoint of being able to come and take it for market value. Market value is not enough. They refuse to look at it from the economic value that it has here for the Imperial Valley. If you look at it from a market value, your water's gone and we just dry up. So rest assured that this board works day and night to stay on top of everything that's going on. We're in touch with the attorneys. We have a couple of meetings coming up where we're going to be looking at strategies moving forward post QSA to make sure that the terms of the QSA are met, particularly on this Salton Sea issue, but also that any rebenching on the river follows the priority system that we have in place. Also, along the same line with the power, there is tremendous changes coming there with the FERC 1000 ruling. We'll probably hear a little bit of that today. And let's talk about building power lines from point A to point B. Well, now there's even talks about regulations that if it comes through Imperial Valley, if we benefited from some form or fashion, that we share the burden of that cost. That's just another way of pushing it down from those that benefit from the energy. So, with all of the changes that you see and our operating procedures, reorganization in the power department, it all centers on these compliant issues. So the old saying, keep the water flowing and the lights on, we plan on doing that, but there are so much more behind it, and it is expensive. It is a tough battle keeping compliant in our energy department, maintaining our balancing control area so that we can keep the rates at the level that we currently have them. I think that's just about all I have to say today for now.
What you got to say about shrimp?
That's shrimp.
Thank you, Director Hanks. I'd just like to redefine my earlier comment. We need to moving forward, water stakeholders, IID board, CoLab veg growers, Farm Bureau, and Water Department staff and administration. We need to get moving forward on our water accounting, our water management. Specifically, I'm talking here about on-farm conservation contracts and the way we administrate and run our fallowing programs. And there specifically, I'm very interested in this subject or type of fallowing that's focused and concentrated on a farm unit management style, on farm unit fallowing. So that's where I really see us that we're lacking and we haven't made the appropriate steps towards our on-farm conservation and farm unit fallowing. And if you hear frustration in my voice, it's because we're spending so much time, energy, legal staff, and administration staff and other places. Meanwhile, that calendar keeps moving on and we get further behind. So that's all for today. We'll move into the general manager's comments now. Mr. Kelly?
I have nothing.
Okay, board, this takes us to the consent section of our agenda. We'll be dealing with consent items 1 and 2. At this time, consent item 1 is the approval of the July 9th, 2013 regular minutes. And consent item 2 is acknowledged receipt of director's expense reports for a period ending June 25th, 2013.
Make a motion to approve items 1 and 2.
We have a motion from Director Hanks. Is there a second?
I second that, Mr. President.
And a second from Director Galindo. I'll call for the vote. Okay, consent items 1 and 2 pass 5-0. We'll now be dealing with consent item 3 as a standalone item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
President doesn't. I have to recuse myself.
Director Benson will be recusing. We have a motion from Director Hanks to approve consent item 3, which is the approval of transmission service agreement between IID and Orney 18 LLC. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And we have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn for consent item 3. Call for the vote. Consent item 3 passes 4-0. This takes us to the action section of our agenda. We'll be dealing with action item 4 today. This is adopt a resolution authorizing the President, Secretary, and General Manager to execute documents on behalf of the Imperial Irrigation District for the year 2013. This is located on page 23 of your agenda, and presenting today will be Mr. Simmons.
board members, the board memo speaks for itself. From time to time, the district is called upon to sign documents and execute documents, and the question arises on occasion as to who has authority to do that. And so what this resolution attempts to do is to quantify exactly who those people are who are authorized to sign, and in point of fact also provides blanks. When this is fully executed, it will actually give samples of those signatures, not unlike the signature on the back of a credit card, as evidence of what that signature will look like. And so to allow those officers to do their jobs and to act on your behalf, this document would be needed to empower them to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. And the board, do you have any questions on this item?
Yeah, this is a single signature. Does it just require a single signature by this group?
It's for anything where it's required under the water code.
Okay.
So yes, there would be a single signature. There are certain contracts, such as real estate transfer contracts, which would require two signatures. But to the extent it's someone acting on behalf of the IID in other contexts is authorized by the water code, it would be a single signature.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion from Director Hanks. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And a second from Director Benson. Any further questions, discussion? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. The next action item is action item 5, is a funding request for Imperial Valley Regional Occupation Program, page 25 of the agenda. And presenting today will be Mr. Kelly.
Yes, President Desert, members of the board, this item has been before you previously. It's back today. Staff seeks further direction from your board as to how to proceed.
So the funding request is for $30,000. We've funded this program in the past. Was that 2 years, or would this be the third year?
Third year.
This would be the third year?
Year 3.
Yeah. Do we have any representatives from IVRP that would?
I believe we are joined by a representative.
Good afternoon, distinguished board. Gabriel Aguirre from Imperial Valley Regional Occupational Program. I have with me Ivan Soto, who is the environmental technician who's responsible for most of the activity that happens through this funding. In front of you, you have a packet that is a snapshot of what takes place throughout the year. There's some photos in there that have Ivan participating in teaching activities, field trips. Primarily what we do through this funding source is we provide an opportunity for students throughout the county to get a perspective on changing the culture as far as conservation and stewardship of our environment. We think it's important that we make the connection between what your board is trying to do for the county and starting at a younger level in terms of being aware of things that are happening in the county in regards to the Salton Sea, the wetlands projects, and things of that nature. I was recently at a Board of Supervisors meeting, and at that Board of Supervisors meeting, I had the opportunity to listen to Mr. Kalin give a presentation on the Salton Sea. And it was interesting that he mentioned wetlands projects and the beneficial outcome of those activities. And that's one of the things that Mr. Soto does with the school districts. We've been in school districts throughout the county. We've been in several of the particular schools that were requested by the previous board. We've been in Mr. Kuhn's wife's classroom, I believe, this year. And so we've made several attempts to be as comprehensive as we can with the amount of money that we've had. We think that, for lack of a better term, you get a really good bang for your buck in terms of the amount of money that we ask for and what the services that we provide. We serve 1,500 plus students. Ivan is very intent on delivering the environmental message. He lives the environmental message, and I think he is an excellent example for the students. He's very dedicated to his activities, and we have a lot of positive feedback from the teachers that he participates with. At the back of that packet, you'll see 2 letters from teachers that he's interacted with.
Yeah, you say you service 1,500 students a year. Is that specifically from this program that the IID is funding, or is that from all your programs?
No, that's from this program specifically.
This program alone?
Yes, sir.
And in the past, this was first came to us. It was a one-time approval for a contribution, and that was expanded into a second year. Was there some other alternative funding that was short?
Yes, there was. We were receiving funding through another local agency, Desert Wildlife Conservation Group.
Desert Wildlife Unlimited.
Desert Wildlife Unlimited. I apologize. And at the end of that funding, they stretched it out for a few years, and we approached your board, and we were approved. We came back the second year because the other funding source was reduced even more. This year we came to you. We actually have no other funding source than the IID this year.
I have a question, Mr. President. How many more students would you be able to serve if this amount were increased to the second request for which was $55,000, I believe?
A second request was submitted for $55,000 on a potential, if we had additional money, what we could do. Ivan and I have talked about the potential of adding a limited part-time person that could participate with the field trip activities, which would enable him to do more in-class activities. This would also allow us to probably encompass more schools at the districts, or at least more classrooms at each district. We estimate, and it's a conservative estimate, that we'd be able to serve 2,200 students. That would be our target with the 55,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board?
I would like to make sure that we include every school district. I see some missing here, and if it's a funding issue, I would sure like to make sure that they get the opportunity to participate.
I think that, and I'll let Ivan speak to this, but we do make the attempt to offer the opportunity to every school district. Again, one person scheduling all of these activities does become, there's limitations in that, but I'll let Ivan speak to whether or not school districts respond.
Definitely, it's not a matter of school districts not being reached or served. It's just the limited resources as far as implementing the program. Over the years, I've been reliant on student volunteers, college students from SDSU and IVC, but volunteers aren't always available. So these additional funds would be used for a part-time person to help implement the program and reach those additional school districts.
I have a question, and it's more in regards to budget and where we budget these items, and then understanding we also have our energy department public benefit funds, and some of this relates to energy when you start talking about renewables. I don't know how much you get into renewables, but just promoting awareness of the youth is important, I think, as far as, turn the lights off when you leave a room, things like that. Do you incorporate any of those into your discussions?
Yes, definitely, and that's a really good question. Being that it's an environmental program, we always push for students going green, getting that into that it's in, especially when they're younger. So definitely those small conservational efforts and promoting that, even though it's just one person, collectively they can make a difference.
Okay, because I think it is important that we do this. I myself am involved with Boys and Girls Club. We have a similar program. We've gone out to corporate sponsors, a little different spin, but I think it's important that we as the IID do interact with our youth. But I just question where the money comes from in our budget, and does the QSA set aside money for communications or public outreach?
So that question has come up in light of the second request, and as it stands today, we would take this money from reserves.
Okay.
Whether or not it fits into the public benefit profile is something we ought to find out about.
AB 1390 has a category for renewable energy in there, which it could be funded out of.
I'd like to see this project expand to kind of fit in with what we're trying to do with the Salton Sea Initiative. I think it should include our TMDL program, what the growers are doing as far as the runoff water, how conservation is impacting the sea. I'd like to see that all tied together, and then I think that would qualify then for some of the funding. So I would make a motion to go with their second request and look at the multi-funding of this program to include these items. Al Kalin just came back in, but he's the expert on the TMDL, and I'm sure that he could help provide a lot of information of what we're trying to do for the sea. But also with our communication specialists, this might be a good program for them to hook up with in some of their efforts on our behalf.
Does your motion?
Second the motion.
Does your motion carry with it that we favor public benefits if we can make it fit?
Yeah, and I will second that motion.
We have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn to fund the program for the second request amount, dollar amount, and that dollar amount, Director Hanks?
That's $55,000.
Well, $55,000.
I got a second already, so don't worry about it.
Well, I'll amend my second to cover it. I think I believe we found a funding source here.
And with the caveat that we'd like to see the focus and concentration visit with the IID and our communication firms that have been hired in regards to our efforts around the Salton Sea and our potential green energy efforts and understanding, as well as the programs such as the TMDL program that the Farm Bureau and Al Kalin specifically head up, and those individuals are available for your resource.
Yes, we'll definitely take all the direction that you want in regards to how do we deliver the information and how we tie it in, and we're always open to looking for expertise on how to deliver the message better.
Okay, if I may, I would really like to see you guys come up here at least twice a year and give us an update.
Definitely.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn to fund the program in the amount of $55,000. Further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I will be abstaining from voting on this issue.
Okay. I'll call for the vote. Item passes 4-0 with one abstention.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Board.
Moving forward, action item 6, acknowledge receipt of audits from the Imperial Energy Store dated March 20th, 2013, and the La Quinta Energy Store dated May 1st, 2013, located on page 27 and 32 of your agenda. And presenting today is Mr. Craig Gottlieb.
Good afternoon. We counted the Energy Department's inventory of supplies and materials on hand at the Imperial Warehouse, and that count consisted of 2,192 material items valued at $5,997,477. The audit adjustments that day were under 1% of the dollars counted, equaling $36,988. It's important to note that that number of $36,988 is comprised mostly of one adjustment, a loss for $32,099, one item, 81 units. And that's a item called a Supply Power 15 VDC, and once that loss was uncovered, 81 units, it was disclosed, there was some research done, and it was discovered to be the result of a key punch error, an entry keystroke error in January of 2013, where they took an 81 unit gain for exactly the same amount. So these two transactions, of course, are equal and offsetting, but nevertheless, we record the loss on inventory day, and it is noted. Because of that, we believe that responsible personnel should develop a process to require that all adjustments, gain or loss, above a defined dollar amount will require review and authorization by the next level of supervision before execution. Such a process may be included in an existing standard operating procedure. So there is a less than 1% variance That is a good report. We have, like I said, we have one recommendation to establish a process to evaluate adjustments above a certain defined dollar amount before they are made. Whatever that defined dollar amount is, we will leave up to those involved in the process who manage the process on a daily basis. Then, secondly, we counted the Energy Department's inventory of supplies and materials on hand at the La Quinta Energy Division. That count consisted of 1,507 different material items valued at $4,691,078. Again, there was a less than 1% variance, and when it was all said and done, only 4 items required adjustment that day of those 1,500 for a $1 net difference. And so at this time, I would like to read this, which we included at the end of our report. When we went out and took the first coordinated wall-to-wall inventory in La Quinta, there was 7 years ago, there was a $1,409,000 variance. That's a 27% gross variance on the inventory on that first coordinated inventory 7 years ago. During the 7 years since then, numerous policies and associated processes have been implemented, which have empowered stores personnel on site and strengthened internal controls over the storage and movement of the district's inventory of supplies and materials. We believe that the reason most responsible for this demonstrated increase in security and accuracy is the ongoing vigilance of all stores personnel, not just on inventory day, but on every day throughout the year, as well as the Energy Department's material planning unit's oversight and coordination with stores and internal audit. And those are our 2 reports.
I'll make a motion that we acknowledge the audit reports, including the recommendation. And I'd also just like to make a comment. I remember that report you gave in 2006, and that's a tremendous progress. And thank the staff on our behalf for the work they're doing to protect their assets.
Thank you. I will take that back to the stores management, and I'll see that it gets conveyed to the materials technicians that work on the floor in the stores.
Thank you.
I'll second the recommendation.
So we have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Benson. Any further questions? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb. Next up is action item 7, is a request for economic development assistance by Grand Plaza LP, located on page 38 of your agenda. Presenting today will be Mr. Carl Stills.
Mr. President, the Energy Department has been approached by the developers of the Grand Plaza in Clexico, which is on the 2nd Street, Anza Road out there. It's a 285,000 square foot outlet shopping mall, and it's supposedly, when in full force, will have somewhere around 5,000 jobs created in the community. In the process of development, they've stated they've lost redevelopment funds, and this kind of places their project at risk and gives them severe cash flow issues. And they've asked for the IID to look at their contract, which they brought to us to review, see whether we would go forward with this. Their phase 1 costs, IID cost to supply that plaza, is basically a total of $1.971 million. What they've asked that we do is take $200,000 down, and the remaining balance of $1.7 million be paid with 6% interest in installments of $100,000 per month for approximately 17 months until it's paid off. The proposal in the agenda that you see there was the one supplied by the Grand Plaza. We do have our legal department looking at that proposal. We do think there are some serious shortfalls. We're not asking you to vote on that. If we were to do this, we would think that we would need some type of security so that the IID's ratepayers didn't have any stranded investment in case there was a default issue. And legal is looking at that now, something like a bond or something like that. And the other issue is we haven't taken this to the ECAC yet, but we wanted to bring it to your attention that they have brought this to our attention to consider. So we're looking for questions or direction.
Mr. Still, the agency's done similar type of work in the name of economic development for Brawley Beef, U.S. Gypsum, the cheese plant, and even the new mall located south of Interstate 8 along in El Centro.
There have been various contracts put in place between development, depending on use, how much of the capacity they use for the development, those types of things. This isn't new to the Energy Department. It's something that has happened in the past. Generally, if we want to create jobs down here, something like this may be needed. One of the reasons that I actually put in an economic development group in the Energy Department was to start looking at issues like this. How can we promote growth? How can we promote jobs? How can we do it without risking our ratepayers? I think if we move forward with something like this, again, there's methodologies we could use to secure the money. So,
and this, if I'm hearing you right, this proposal wouldn't actually be a cost to the IID other than carrying some money for approximately a year?
Correct.
And we just would need to have peace of mind that we're protected on our
We'd have to go
exposure
back, and
here.
I've already spoke to Mr. Simmons and Mr. Taylor, who's looking at the contract, and expressed the view that we get some protections if we do move forward with this, and there, so the IID ratepayer is not at risk. But on the other side of it, it does promote development.
And this project is currently under development, is over halfway developed, or?
Yes, that's correct.
And if they didn't get the power from the IID, they're talking about using portable generators?
Using portable generators, so we're going to have to make a decision pretty soon because we've got long lead items that we would have to order, which will require us to go out and do expenditures up front. We'd have to get their dollars in on that, order the material.
Of the lead items that you would be looking at ordering, are they site-specific just to this project, or are there something that...
No, for the most part, those would be, could be used again in our system. Again, the circuits that we use down there, X123 circuits, are typical distribution circuits for us to go out and use. I think most of the material out there, if something did happen, can be used in other parts. Just I'd like to be on the safe side and secure that, probably with a bond.
Yeah, I would like to see us to come back. Redevelopment money's gone, enterprise zone money's going to be gone, and there's some, we have some projects that are major employers in the valley that are hanging in there, during these rough times. I would like to see us come up with some type of policy too, in addition to whatever action we take today, have staff bring us back a policy so we have something on the books. This is a situation where the staff has gone in and performed their work and studies, but yet they had no authorization to make a move. So I would also ask that be brought back to us later.
So in response to that, this is somewhat time-bound because the project is actually underway in the ground, which is the threshold for many of these projects, whether or not they're going to build them. So I believe that the agreement that's included in your agenda is the one submitted by the developer, and we don't believe that's sufficient. So with your concurrence, the General Counsel will prepare one that better protects the IID should you go forward with this.
Yeah, I would make the motion that we have counsel prepare a document that you feel comfortable with, gives the IID sufficient protection to go ahead and allow ordering of these materials to get them here in a timely way.
I would second that motion, but and I would not have if Mr. Simmons wasn't going to look at this and try to protect in the IID. I mean, again, I've been in construction a long time, and I understand bonds, and I understand operating with people with no bonds, and I understand operating with people who can't get bonds. And if you can't get a bond, then obviously you're financially incapable. And if you're financially incapable, then there's a very real chance something will happen on that project and you'll bail. And do I want to help Calexico? Yes, I do. Do I want to see it stay a thriving and vibrant shopping area? Yes, I do. Do I have anything against IID playing a part in that? No, I don't. But I just want to be certain that we are covered financially on this thing so we don't get burned. And with that in mind, then yes, my second stands.
Something, Mr. Chairman, please. I also believe that we need to be as business friendly as possible, and we have come to the support of the other companies that President Desert mentioned. However, I have a great deal of difficulty seeing 5,000 jobs created in an outlet, and wonder if some, or if not most of those jobs are going to just be transfers from the mall here that's going to take the business over there. I've not seen the studies, the feasibility studies, but there are only so many dollars to go around in this valley. And I think one thing we need to incorporate when we follow and create a procedure for this is hear and understand what the other stakeholders believe. And I'm speaking in particular about the small businessmen in the Calexico downtown area, because they are going to get hit so very hard. And I think we need to be sensitive to those needs also. And lastly, for the management and for the record, it would be music to my ears to see that most of these jobs are going to be part-time. That we know. That there should be an adequate allocation of those jobs designated to school students. Kids can't get jobs anymore because they're competing with adults that are willing to work for minimum wage or less, even in many cases. And I think that we need to begin to look at what is this really going to do for the tax base of Imperial County and of Calexico. And so I would urge the management that's looking into the issues of employment to give a good number of these part-time jobs consideration for the high school students. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn.
I think you have a gentleman here if he wants to. Second row.
Do we have comments from the public?
I had a question on status of the project, actually. What is the construction status, and what is the grand opening date anticipated as well?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Jack Kirchian. I represent the developers of the Grand Plaza. And yes, we made a sizable investment in the project there. We're well underway. And if you've driven by recently, you see the buildings are painted. We're paving the parking lot. And so we're not backing out. We're not changing our minds. We're committed to the project. So if there's any doubt about that, I'd like to put that at ease. I can't speak about the number of jobs. That's kind of a different group of people. I handle the construction and development of the project. But we can give you a study that there's state guidelines about how they figure how many jobs will come out of a certain type of development. And so we can speak to that for you. And so one thing that is key to us is that the material get ordered as soon as possible so that we have it available, so we don't have to entertain the use of generators or something like that to turn the lights on. So if you could add that to your motion, that would be very appreciated by us in our group. And I'm here to be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are you committed to getting a bond to cover the the payment of the electrical expenses?
I'm sure we would consider giving you some kind of security. We understand that you're going to be investing a fair amount of your money into the project, and so we are able to get bonds and letters of credit and those kinds of things. We just would hope that it doesn't slow down the process of getting this material ordered and the work moving forward. So we'd be happy to work with you on that.
So I think that the IID as an institution and as a board has a long history of recognizing its role as an economic catalyst. I think the only threshold question would be, can you satisfy the security component of a contract that's acceptable to IID?
I can't speak financially for the company, but I don't see that would be an issue. I mean, we get bonds for projects all the time.
Well, then you'll want to advise the people you work for that they'll be hearing from Mr. Simmons.
I'll certainly take that message back as soon as we're finished here.
I had one other quick question, but it looked like it was typed on here, the 3 traffic signals and streetlights. Who owns that? Because the IID typically wouldn't own streetlights and traffic signals, right?
That would be probably owned by the city of Calexico, and what you would be providing is basically the electrical services for those items. Okay. So there's an electrical meter, and that was part of the cost.
We're up to the meter.
$1.9 million.
Okay. Are you asking any concessions from the city of Calexico?
In what
Just
regard?
as part of permit fees or?
We've had a lot of discussions with the city of Calexico about their fees, and we have asked for concessions with them as well. And I'd have to come back to let you know what those were, because I can't tell you off the top of my head.
I'd be interested in knowing what they are, just to know that we're not the only ones kicking in.
Yeah, there was about $3.5 million in impact fees that I think we helped finance with some public subsidy from the city of Calexico.
Okay.
I have a question. Would this merit, after the agreement is drawn by our attorney, would this merit a special meeting for approval because of the fact that this is moving so fast?
I think that the general manager would be more comfortable with that.
Okay, thank you.
I would ask a couple of questions. One, on the energy efficiency of the facilities, has that been taken into consideration in the development?
Yes, it has. The state of California recently adopted a green code, which has required a very high efficiency in the air conditioning units mainly, and the energy consumption of buildings these days. And so it's significantly higher than it used to be.
As an IID customer, what do you expect your power bill to be a month?
Oh my gosh. I believe we did a calculation, and to be honest with you, I don't recall what that number was. I apologize for that. I should know that number.
In the middle of August, no less.
It's a substantial number, I must say.
How many square feet are you building?
285,000 square feet.
In the first phase, yes, it's 285,000. That's leasable square footage. The project is, I think, about 35 acres. So there's site lighting and that kind of thing as well.
I think that's another angle we have to look at. They will be a customer.
Be a large load.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it's about the size of the Super Walmart in Brawley.
I'm sorry?
How big is the Super Walmart in Brawley? 250?
Yeah, actually, I think probably much larger.
Okay.
The Super Walmart,
150.
like 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further questions? We have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn.
I would just like to have it reread what exactly we are voting on.
Yeah, the motion will include the agreement to be put together by our legal firm with the approval of the general manager, which would satisfy the concerns to be able to order the equipment in a timely fashion.
And are you asking for a special meeting to approve the contract, or no?
No, I was going to leave that up to legal and the general manager when they feel they have it satisfied.
You understand the direction we're concerned about and what we're giving, Mr. Kelly?
I do. I probably will visit with the board president prior to executing.
We have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn, and we've reread the motion from Director Hanks. Any further questions? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Next up, we have the request. Action item 8 is a request by the Water Department for an additional 5 Heavy Equipment 1 positions. This item is located on page 51 of the agenda. And presenting today will be Water Manager Jesse Silva.
Mr. President, excuse me, this item came to you as information, I believe, 2 meetings ago. Normally, this additions to staff would be handled through the budgeting process, and but because of the fact that we have some issues related to, for instance, we have 47 pieces of equipment, we have 46 operators. But we have 3, for instance, right now we have 3 on sick leave, family related to health issues. And then, for instance, in any given day, we have 4 or 5 that are out, vacations, sick leave, just normal kind of things. So we never seem to be able to get all of our equipment operating, especially our water trucks. It's become a big issue with dust control. And that's why we have brought this to you outside of the normal process of the budgeting process.
Well, Mr. Silver, if we funded these positions, then we would actually have somewhat of a savings to offset the expense, and that savings would be a less overtime that we're currently paying?
Well, not so much overtime, because basically what's happening is that we're just not able to get the work done. So we do have the budget to get the work done. It's just not getting done because we have a shortage of people. So in the end, we wouldn't really use any more money.
I think, President Desert, it can be summed up again, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but we've been spending we've been spending $1 to save a dime. We're renting water trucks because they have operators from Superior and other places, and we don't have people to run our own. And so, coupled with the fact that with the people we have, it isn't enough through sick days, through vacations, through whatever. And so we are spending $1 to save a dime. And these vacancies need to be filled so that we can do all of the above. Not hire these outside contractors, get the work done, and cover the labor shortage that currently exists. Now, I was out on a job and I saw this with these eyes, and it came to my attention that we needed to be done. And so I still feel this needs to be done, and I believe it will be in the best interest of the district, and I believe we will save money by adding these.
What's your motion?
I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Director Kuhn to approve the 5 positions, and a second from Director Hanks. Any further questions?
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. These 5 positions will be full-time bona fide employees,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Question for Mr. Silva. Jesse, you came back on board at the IID recently, and that was after the Water Department went through a reorg under the previous water manager, Jim Ross. And it's my understanding that through that reorg, we lost some equipment operator positions by the upward movement of them and those operators into middle management levels. Is that correct?
We lost positions there, and we also lost a lot of positions in just the construction and maintenance crews that were very, very short as well. And it's the same thing that's happening in the crews as well. We just don't have enough people to send out to do just normal maintenance.
But did we lose the numbers? Were they cut back, or did those employees move upward to some type of a management level and they're still there?
Not so much that they moved up, but that as people retired, we're not allowed to replace them, and so we just keep losing people. And that was, I guess, due to budget cuts. I don't know. I was not here at that time.
So you and I have had further discussions about this, about trying to address this issue of lack of operators through the budget. and perhaps taking a look at those positions and to see if we can get those middle management positions corrected and get operators back on the job and on the equipment. And some time has gone by since you and I originally had those discussions, and we've since then have lost some employees through attrition and age, and now we're experiencing a lack of employee positions with sick days.
Yes.
My concern here is that these reorgs, we do reorgs periodically at the IID, and they're needed as the agency changes and the requirements for the agencies change. But that Jim Ross water reorg was of some concern of mine as I watched it happen, because I was concerned about the lack of operators or blue collar jobs and the increase of middle management jobs and the increase in pay that was involved there. So here, if that my perception of that reorg was correct, the IID machine, the agency itself, or these employees were somewhat rewarded in pay, but the agency itself was starved on functionality because we had lost equipment operator positions. And if that was the mindset as we went into that reorg, then here we are today making up for those positions. So it is somewhat my concern, the activity that we're contemplating here. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't support it. We need to have an operating agency that's taking care of their work, especially those blue-collar type of front.
These are the frontline people that actually do the work, and that's where, again, we're short there, and we're also short on the maintenance crews, which is unfortunate because we just can't keep up with the basic work that we have.
Yeah. Well, I'm in support of this item today, but as we're starting a new budget cycle, I will be visiting with you to see where we're at as compared to where we were before the Jim Ross water reorg, where we were after the Jim Ross water reorg, and where we're currently at.
President Desert,
under your help.
That my recollection of that reorg was that there was a philosophical bent toward outsourcing that is no longer the case, and I think that it's something that we'll have to address in a budget and in revisiting the categories.
Well, if that's the case, then we should have the money in our budget, and we would just shift it back to in-house. Is that correct? Are you pulling money out of capital to cover this, or some other expenditure?
No, at the time when they made those changes, they were going to do more contracting, like Kevin says, but it never really happened. It was kind of set up that way, but it never got done. So all we did was we cut our budget, but we really didn't add to the contracting part. So we never really was finalized.
So is there a condition that these are dedicated water truck operators, or are they going to get pulled and do other things as well?
No, they'll work within the heavy equipment operators pool. They may not always drive a water truck specifically, but they'll be doing whatever is necessary within that group. Yeah.
Mr. Kuhn? Okay, we have a motion from Director Hanks and a second from Director Kuhn.
The other way.
Motion from Director Kuhn and a second from Director Hanks. Any further questions? Call for the vote.
Item passes.
5-0. Action item.
Truck drivers.
Action item 9, payment of the 2013-14 dues to the Colorado River Board 6 agencies, page 53 of your agenda. And presenting today will be Water Manager Jesse Silva.
You have the information in front of you. You can notice that it's increase of $9,900 over last year's contribution. But this one and the next item are basically items that we have to deal with on a year-to-year basis, and we are, a part of that group. And my recommendation is that we pay both of these invoices. Directors Hanks and Benson are on those committees.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Director Hanks and a second from Director Benson. Any further questions? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Next up, we have the item 10, action item 10, payment of the 2013-14 dues to the Colorado River Authority. Page 63 of the agenda, and presenting again here today will be Mr. Silva.
Again, my recommendation is that the board approves this item, even though it is an increase of $11,000 over last year's dues.
Make a motion.
They are budgeted items in our in our budget.
Budgeted.
Yes.
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Director Hanks.
I'll second.
And a second from Director Benson. And the budgeted item, I have one question, Mr. Silva. The $11,000, $328 increase is budgeted also in the.
We usually have an increase, but I'm not sure if it's exactly that amount. But
and is there any explanation from CRA as to why what the increase is for?
I think it was related to an extra tour.
Tour, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second from Director Hanks and Director Benson. Any further questions? Call for the vote. Item passes 5-0. Last action item of the day will be the authorization to award a purchase order to Toyota Lift Incorporated for 11 forklifts, page 69 of the agenda. And presenting today will be Don Campbell. No, I'm sorry.
In disguise, Donna Gray.
Donna Gray, thank you.
General Services Department Manager Interim. Good afternoon, directors. We were here on June 25th for a recommendation to purchase 13 forklifts. Since that time, we've provided additional documentation to the board on usage and sharing abilities between the different sections, the owner sections. And through those conversations, we are bringing back a reduced recommendation of 11 units. In this, we will be reducing 1 unit for the facilities section, 1 unit for the stores section, both in Imperial. Those are 8,000-pound forklifts. And then in addition, the previous lease period for the generation station in El Centro had 2 8,000-pound forklifts. One of those is being reduced to a 4,000-pound. So with that, we have a reduced figure for the purchase of these vehicles, which will represent a savings to the district over a much longer period than a 4-year lease. So we are asking for you to approve this recommendation.
Mr. President, I make the motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I second that, Mr. President.
And we have a second from Director Glindo. Questions?
I have a question. How many or what facility has the most forklifts? Is it Imperial? And how many are in Imperial, scheduled to be in Imperial?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 in Imperial.
And they're all different departments, or they can't share it? Because
no, they do. They do currently. Stores does provide services to facilities when they need it, and to energy. They do work for the transformer shop. Even though there is one stationed at the power dock, sometimes you have a need to do certain work at a specific time. And then also facilities and fleet also assists the water department and the transportation when they have moves.
So it's mainly loading and unloading items off trucks.
Right. And some of this, the number is the requirement for flexibility for the very large loads. That's the 20,000 pound lift.
My only issue with this is we don't have a consolidated area for deliveries in Imperial, and I would rather see a proposal that incorporates a common place to deliver items, and then the distribution around Imperial, and not having 8 forklifts an hour a day working. Because when I looked at the hour usage, I mean, some of those were 300 to 400 hours in a year. And that's just not very good utilization of your equipment.
Well, we have noted that, and that's why we come back with the reduced requirement.
Okay.
Yeah, so the original request was 13 units, and now we're down to 11. That's correct?
Correct. And as I pointed out, one of those was reduced in size at the generation station.
And Donna, the last time we did these forklifts on a lease, it was our 4-year lease.
Yes.
And if we look at this, a lease compared to purchase here, do we pay for these forklifts at some time during, rather than doing a 4-year lease? If we were going to do a 4-year lease on these same number of units,
Mm-hmm.
how is this a smarter decision by the IID by buying these units?
Well, our current forklifts were leased at a time that the compliant issues for the diesel fuel engines were either non-existent or in a state of development. The current forklifts that we're leasing don't meet those requirements, and so at this point in time, we would either have to then start a new lease for the new compliant equipment or purchase it. So when you're looking at the usage that we have, but the varied usage that we need around the district, we will have these forklifts for a lot longer than a 4-year period. So we're saving all of that interest that we've spent during this 4-year period, the previous.
In a 4-year lease, you typically pay, what, 60-70% of the total cost of the new equipment in a 4-year lease?
Well, if I know that some figures were given to you as far as what the total lease would have been, it is close to what we're going to be paying for the for 11 forklifts 4 years later. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, whether you leased them or purchased them, you have that chunk of change. It's just that we will be able to utilize these forklifts for a lot longer than 4 years.
And if they're low in hours, the most likely that utilization of
Yes.
them longer than 4 years
Right.
will not require significant operation and maintenance.
Correct. Uh-huh.
And so how many years useful life is it possible that we could get? 6 years, 7 years?
I have one that's 20 years old.
Well, I was looking at one of the electric forklifts that we do own, and it's a 1991 in La Quinta, a little electric one. So, and we had another one that was a 96, but it's no longer compliant. So, we're getting more than 6 years for sure.
So is there an opportunity to go with natural gas on any of these so they stay compliant?
No, these next the units that we solicited that we're recommending purchase
They're
are
tier
compliant.
4, or what is the tier rating? And when does tier 5 come, Don? Okay.
Oh, here's your expert here.
But there is no opportunity to go to natural gas, because I know I run some of these on propane or natural gas,
I think that
like a 6,000 pound or below.
yeah, I don't think they're having an advantage of utilizing a natural gas for these.
Mr. Kemp, do you know what kind of a lifespan these Tier 4 engine forklifts would have on the current regulations of the Air District?
I do not, and I don't think anybody else does. We can only go with the estimates from the manufacturer, because there's very few of them in service.
Until some moron in Sacramento decides, that's when. How many certified operators do we have?
I don't know, but I would say that that the majority of the employees in the stores and materials handling are forklift certified. I'm sure that the same would be said in the facilities group, so they have a number of people that can operate these.
I'm like Director Benson. The hours that we operate these things, if we maintain them right, they should last 20 years.
I would say a good 10 at least.
Or at least have a residual value at the end of the lease, so we're not giving them away. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Kuhn and a second from Director Benson. Any further questions? Galindo, excuse me.
Galindo.
Call for the vote. Item passes 4-1. And we'll take a short recess and then go into the information agenda area of the meeting.
Thank you.